and welcome to the podcast. How are you today? I hope that this will help to ease you gently into the week. I'm all about easing into the week gently. It's much kinder to ourselves than beating ourselves up with a huge long list of things to do. If you've been resting over the weekend, you need the time to warm your work muscles back up. In this episode, I'm going to be talking about 5 new habits that I have adopted. And I decided to frame this as talking about new habits that I've adopted as opposed to old habits or behaviours that I've given up, as it feels so much more constructive and goal orientated in a good way to add in positive things. And it also means I'm more likely to stick to them as opposed to focusing on getting rid or taking out old habits, which can frankly feel like a lot of hard work and quite negative or destructive, as if something is broken and needs fixing, which it doesn't. And that's true for all of us. First of all, I thought I'd talk to you about why I decided to add in some new habits. So, first off, there's always room for improvement. There's always new habits that we can adopt for our health or well-being or for others that probably won't take too much time or effort, but which will have huge benefits either for us or for those around us. Secondly, time is a finite resource. It's the one thing that we just cannot replace. When it's gone, it's gone. And I like to make sure that I'm using my time wisely. That doesn't mean to say that sitting for hours watching TV can't be productive when you've decided to actively engage in it and you're aware that you're doing it, or because it brings you joy. But I just like to check in and know that I'm using my time wisely, and adding in new habits can help with doing this, especially when, and this brings me on to my third point, you're habit stacking. So there are things that we do every single day without thinking about them, like cleaning our teeth, putting our pants on, going to the loo, not necessarily a habit, but something we have to do, having a shower, pulling our shoes on as we go out of the door. And it's easy to stack another habit on top of something that you're already doing. So this could mean doing it at the same time, such as standing on one leg whilst cleaning your teeth, which is great for our balance as we get older, or doing your pelvic floor exercises whilst cleaning your teeth, also great for as we get older. Or you can stack a habit on either side of something so that that main cleaning your teeth habit acts as a prompt and you can do something immediately before it and immediately after it as well. Also, sometimes in adding in new habits, they can have other consequences, which can go so far as eliminating those patterns of behaviour or habits that you think need tweaking, but which I mentioned earlier can feel a bit negative and a bit beat yourself up to say, oh, I'm going to stop doing this. Or, to face those head on. If it just felt too big to face them head on, then habit stacking and taking up new habits can mean that there are other consequences as well. That whole beating yourself up is never going to motivate anyone to reach a goal. The energy is all wrong and it can come from the wrong place, but adopting new habits can have knock-on effects as well, which can be really positive. So as I mentioned, there's 5 habits that I've adopted, and I think I probably started to adopt these at the back end of the summer. So I've been doing most of them for a couple of months now, and I wanted to test them out and just see how I was getting on before I shared them. But the first habit that I adopted is doing yoga morning and evening every single day. I've missed it twice so far. Once when I moved my daughter down to London and didn't get home, I was driving home, I didn't get home until 1 o'clock in the morning. And then once when I was on an early train to London, which was last week. And that's it. But before I dive into the whole, this is what I do and this is how I do it, because I know that yoga can feel a bit unrelatable to some, or a bit intimidating, or that you have to be a certain body shape or a certain body type or look a certain way or have the right gear and so on and so forth. I'm just going to take a few minutes to talk about my relationship with yoga over the years. So when I was growing up, there was a lady who lived over the road of us who we called Auntie Ella, because you always called your mum's friends Auntie something. So this was Auntie Ella, and she was probably a generation above my mum actually. I used to hear her go to work in the morning. She had one of the original VW Beetles, which was so noisy. I mean, there was no double glazing then either, but when she started her car engine over the other side of the main road, it would wake us up. And Auntie Ella lived on her own with 3 cats. And the other thing I really remember about Auntie Ella was when you went into her house, it really smelled of cat food. This is the old-fashioned cat food tins we're talking about. Oh boy, either that or fish that she'd cooked for these cats, which she absolutely adored. She lived on her own. Don't know if she'd been married, didn't have any children. So anyway, Auntie Ella, as well as having a very loud beetle and as well as having 3 cats, used to do yoga. And I was probably about 7 at this time, and I'd started my ballet, I was doing gymnastics, and I just think it felt a good idea that I would go and practice yoga with Auntie Ella every Sunday morning. So I did. And there's photographs of me in the garden doing various different yoga poses. So it's something that I've been aware of for a very long time, since I was very small. So I did my yoga with Auntie Ella, and then I think I just went more down my ballet route, did lots and lots of ballet and things. And then it was probably only when I'd got the 3 children that I started to think about doing yoga again. And I tried various classes, and I just ended up being really stressed, because by the time I'd gone to the class and we'd all been checked in and there was the chat, and then we did the class, I'd be looking at my watch thinking, I really need to get back now. And then we'd do the bit at the end, Shavasana, when you'd lie there, and I would be so stressed thinking, just get this over, just get this over. I want to go home. And so that didn't work for me. And I kind of put it on the back burner. Oh, and then I did some classes with this amazing yoga teacher, and she had previously been a dancer at the Birmingham Royal Ballet, because we've got the Royal Ballet here. She'd been a dancer there, and now she was teaching yoga close to me. And I used to go to her classes a little bit, but I found them a little bit unrelatable. She was just so phenomenal, and I felt so inferior. And I didn't deliver what I was hoping it was going to deliver for me. And that was nothing to do with her. That was purely to do with me. So then during lockdown, I think it was before lockdown actually, my husband had started doing yoga with Adrienne on YouTube, who I really recommend you go and check out if you are looking for a way to just have a gentle introduction into yoga. And occasionally I do it with him, but I didn't find that quite flowy enough, quite enough momentum, movement. I found it a little bit too static. And this is a very personal thing. So again, nothing against Adrienne. She has got millions of followers on YouTube and has done an incredible thing for making yoga accessible to lots of people. But she just didn't quite resonate with me. Anyway, in the summer, I was on holiday talking to a friend of mine who is a really big yogi. She's been doing it for 10 years. She's amazing at it. And her husband had always been a bit, not massively into it. He accepted it was her thing, but she knew the benefits for him. Anyway, even he said, oh, I found this great yoga with Cassandra. My friend Vic was saying, yes, yoga with Cassandra is amazing. So I came home and looked her up on YouTube and haven't stopped doing her yoga classes since. She's got a great 30-day yoga program, and the classes in the morning, they're quite short. They're maybe 12 minutes. And then in the evening, they're a bit longer, maybe 19 or 20 minutes. So not a huge amount of time either end of the day, but I absolutely love the way that she instructs, how she talks to you, how it is so relatable, but at the same time, it's a little bit challenging. And then you can search for her intermediate classes, so I might do a longer one at the weekend. But anyway, morning and evening, do yoga with Cassandra, do it in the bedroom, light my candle, lights down, go to sleep. It's great. So anyway, in terms of a habit, when I was saying that adopting a new habit can have other consequences, there are so many positive consequences that I've had as a result of doing yoga with Cassandra, and I'll run through these for you. So first of all, I go to bed earlier. I set an alarm on my phone because I want to make sure that I'm upstairs and ready to do my yoga and have still got time to get into bed before it's too late. So I definitely go to bed earlier, which is something that I had been trying to achieve for quite a long time now with very limited success. It's definitely good for my overall mental well-being. Sometimes if I'm partway through the day and I come across something that makes me feel a bit kind of a bit short of breath or feels a bit challenging, I always just think, oh, but I can get on my yoga mat in a few hours. And there's something about that. It's just a tool in my toolbox that I use, knowing that I can get into my downward dog and I'm going to feel much better. So it's definitely good for my overall mental well-being. I sleep better. I didn't sleep badly before, but I'm sure that I sleep better. I'm not a big drinker and never have been, and will only sometimes drink at the weekend, but definitely that's something at the forefront of my mind when I'm weighing up whether I want to have something or not. I'm thinking, oh, I want to do my yoga later. Is it going to impact on that? Would I rather not have the drink? So that's definitely at least made me more aware of that side of things. I spend more time with my husband because he will quite often do it with me in the evening as well, or in the morning, because he'd already built up his own yoga practice doing it with Adrienne. So sometimes we now do it together in the evening, a little bit squashed in the bedroom. We bump heads sometimes, but it's nice to be together. And then the last thing that I was thinking about is, and it's a really great one actually, is that my aches and pains have pretty much gone. And that is one of the main reasons that I continue to do it. Before I was doing yoga, whenever I stood up, I hadn't got to the stage, like a lot of older people, when they get up, they start going, ooh, ow. I hadn't got to that stage, but I definitely know that if I was walking off with my left foot, I was much more ginger on it. I stepped on it gingerly because my Achilles hurt or something hurt. So I would start walking in probably in a bit of an old lady way, thinking about it. And I still find myself doing that now. And I'll take a few steps and go, yeah, but Beth, your ankle, your Achilles doesn't hurt anymore, or that doesn't hurt anymore. So you don't need to walk like that. So that's how I'm aware that I was doing that previously. But it is so good for aches and pains and just general flexibility and feeling that you can move in a much more flowing and almost graceful way, I think. So there are all the good things that have come out of this simple practice of doing yoga for 12 minutes in the morning and 19-20 minutes in the evening, whatever it may be. And the thing is, if I'd have said to myself, I am going to go to bed earlier, that wouldn't have been good enough. I don't think it would have motivated me. Well, it didn't, because I tried. And if I said, I'm going to cut down on drinking, not that I drank a lot anyway, would I have really had a good enough reason to do so? Probably not. If I'd have said, I need to get more mindfulness in the day or spend more time with my husband, that feels like quite a long list of things to achieve. But it's just the knock-on effect of adopting that small yoga practice each morning and evening has had these really positive effects. And one of the most important things, I think, when it comes to adopting a new habit is to set yourself up for success. Because sometimes we can be our own biggest saboteurs. So what I do is I have a yoga mat in the bedroom. I like to do yoga in the bedroom in the evening. I have a yoga mat up there. I have my block up there. I have my clothes just popped on top of the yoga mat. So everything is there, really easily accessible. We're all short of time. We've got 1,000,001 things going on our heads. And so if you've made it easy for yourself, you're more likely to take up the habit in the first place, and B, stick to it, so that in the morning when I wake up, everything is there ready. I just put my yoga gear on and I go. The only thing that holds me up is the Wi-Fi, which can be an absolute pain, but you can watch it on your phone, so that's great. Okay, so that was my first habit that I've adopted, yoga, and I love it now. Habit number 2, this is taking collagen sachets. Now, full disclosure, I was approached by a brand who asked me if I would like to take their collagen sachets, and they do send me a box of sachets each month. So it's important that you know that at this stage. But let me tell you a little bit more about why I decided to take it. So I've stacked this onto my pre-yoga bedtime routine, which means I'm more likely to stick with it. And unlike me, I was a real one for saying I would do something and start it and give it up. Unlike my husband, who's very dedicated and committed once he decides to do something, I think I was probably a little bit more flaky. But I do this immediately before I go up and start my yoga routine. So all these habits that I'm talking about pretty much are stacked on top of one another, and it's given me a whole new framework for my evening in a way. So in all honesty, I'd dabbled with the idea of taking multivitamins or taking something for my skin and my general well-being and my body, but I didn't really know where to start. So the brand that came to me, Zuki, and there's a link below if you just want to take a look at their products, and there's a discount code as well. They made it easy for me. That's what I'm trying to say, because they came to me. And when they'd come to me, I looked at their website. I'd got, I could read the information, I could see what they were about. And so I thought, I'm not taking anything. I have nothing to lose. I'm going to take the collagen sachets. And what I do is I keep them in the fridge. They definitely taste better if they're in the fridge, because they are made of cod liver oil, something like that, something to do with fish anyway. So they definitely taste better if they're in the fridge, but they don't have a fishy taste about them. I keep it in the fridge. I take it every night before bed. It tastes really sweet, but it doesn't have artificial sweeteners in it. I swallow it in one go and I'm done. It takes me about 20 seconds and I am done. And the thing about them is that I feel as though I'm doing something positive for myself. The results in the short term, I think my skin is a little bit bouncier. So if I tap my face, it feels like it pings back a little bit more than it did before. I think my hair grows more quickly. And I know that collagen is good for cartilage and bones. So whether my aches and pains have reduced as a result of taking the collagen or as a result of doing the yoga, or what I suspect has happened, it's an amalgamation of the two, then that is a really positive benefit as well. And who really knows? But it's the same with lots of things that we do. Benefits aren't always obvious immediately, but in the long term, these small steps can have huge benefits. So when you're 7 and you're cleaning your teeth every day, you don't know at the age of 50 whether that's, well, you can't imagine whether you're 7, when you're 7, whether that's going to have great effects or not, but it does. And it's lots of these little things that we do that I think can make a huge difference in the long run. So that's my second habit, taking up the collagen, but more specifically, it's doing something that I think is going to benefit me, taking something that I think is going to benefit my health in the long term. So it's buying in now and doing something, even though I'm not sure 100% if I can see results. I think I can, but I'm not really sure, but I'm committed to it and I'm going to continue with it anyway. So that was my second habit that I've started. Okay, my third habit is flossing my teeth every single night. And you might think, well, why weren't you doing this before? I'll come to that in a second. But I floss my teeth every single night. And I've also stacked this onto my pre-yoga bedtime routine. So I'll do my collagen, I'll go upstairs, I'll go into the bathroom, do all that business, and then do my yoga. I say do all that business because there's another habit that comes within that I'm going to explain in a minute. And so why wasn't I doing this before? Well, that's a very good question. But over the years, I've tried various flossing products and I just didn't really get on with any of them, if I'm honest. Once I used some of the flossing tape years ago and it snapped and it got stuck in between two of my teeth and it was really desperately uncomfortable until I could get it out, and it took me a couple of days. So that was not a nice experience. My husband uses the horse-shaped, almost like little catapult flossing sticks, but I snapped those in an instant. I think I must have very sharp teeth, but they just snap with me. So they're no good. Plus, they're plastic, and I wasn't happy really about using plastic every day. Also, I used the wire brushes. But again, they snapped. So they're like a stick with a little wire brush on the end that you just put in between your teeth. But they would snap and they would go through the gaps in my teeth and snap on the inside of my mouth. And they were a real pest to try and get out. So I didn't like those. And there's something about having metal in your mouth that really isn't very nice. But then I found the rubber ones. So they're the equivalent of the metal ones, but they've got a little rubber brush on the end. And I absolutely love those. And I think that's what a lot of habits is about, is finding something that works for you. We all know we should floss, but sometimes you have to shop around and find the right product. And let's face it, it's taken me a number of years. Now I have 2 sizes of my little rubber floss brushes even, because I have a little overcrowding on my lower teeth. So I need a finer one for the lower teeth, and then I have a slightly wider one for the upper teeth, and they're great. They don't hurt, they're not fiddly. And last time I went to the dentist, you know how they mark your teeth out of 100? Well, I got a 1, which I think is about the highest you can get, unless you can get a 0. I'm aiming for a 0 next time. So there's also that bit of 1970s in me that likes a top mark. But flossing is the third habit that I have added into my evening routine, and I do love it. Who would ever think that anyone would say I love flossing my teeth? But I do. I'm really proud of them. I'm like, I know you're all clean, I know you're all lovely, and that's great, because it's important to invest in our teeth and our hair and our eyes to make sure that they're going to serve us through what will hopefully be many more years to come. Habit number 4. Let's move on to habit number 4. This is a habit of replacing something that I was using with something else. So I replaced my face wipes with a product from the Body Shop called Camomile cleansing butter, which I absolutely love. So this is something that I intentionally gave up, but it's been so easy, again, because I found a fabulous replacement. For years, donkey's years, I have used Boots face wipes. You buy them in a pack of, I don't know, 30 or something. They're in a blue packaging. I have used those face wipes forever. All I remember using before that, when I very first started cleansing my face, probably when I was 13, who remembers Anne French cleansing milk? I used to use Anne French cleansing milk and cotton wool, which I think was probably really astringent. It probably just took the top layer of my skin off each night. But I used to use Anne French cleansing milk, and then I progressed onto the Boots cucumber range, I think it was. So then I'd walk around smelling like a cucumber. And then I went to a sensitive free range, I would imagine, before I started using face wipes, which, as I say, I've been using for a really, really long time now. But I was conscious that I was using face wipes which were bad for the environment. So I knew that I needed to make a change. But the reason that I liked them was because I don't really like getting my face wet at night. Something my mum has always said, and I've never understood it, because I'm perfectly happy to go swimming and get my face wet, but I don't really think I like getting my face wet in the shower that much, or at night splashing water on my face. I just didn't like it. So the face wipes had enough moisture on them just to make me take my makeup off, and they did take all of my makeup off, and make me feel as if I cleansed my face and it was, you know, it was clean, but without being really wet and drippy and soggy, which I didn't like. And also they don't smell, and I'm not very good with smells. All my friends know, everyone knows, if we're going on a long car journey, I have to say to people, can you please not wear perfume in the car? Can you please not bring coffee with you? Which sounds terrible, but the consequences can be so awful. Migraines are so debilitating. If any of you have them, you will know what I mean. I think I would probably rather give birth than have a migraine. They're just so awful. And I say that having had some painful births as well. That's not a throwaway comment. So that's why I used the face wipes as well. There's no smell about them. But I did know, I kept thinking at the back of my mind, I need to stop using these. I need to find an alternative. And then again, I was on holiday in the summer talking to my friend Vic, who's the yoga whiz woman, and she said, oh, have you tried this Body Shop Camomile cleansing butter? So I bought myself a little tin, because it comes in different size tins. I bought myself a little tin and the most amazing cloth, which almost feels, when it's wet, quite stiff and boardy, a bit like, did you ever have Wrigley's spearmint gum when you were younger, and you take it out of the wrapper? It was quite stiff, and then you would put it in your mouth and it would soften up. Well, the texture is a little bit like that when they're wet, almost a bit neoprene-y and a bit brittle feeling. And then you put water on it and it's the most lovely, soft, sumptuous cloth. So I bought the two of those things together. I've never really been a fan of the muslin cloths. I find those a little bit abrasive. I mean, with my Anne French cleanser that I used to use, I really could have taken off the top layer of my skin every night. So I've got the cleansing butter, I've got the lovely cloths. They work together in perfect harmony. It takes off all your eye makeup as well, and just leaves your face feeling really, really lovely and soft. And in terms of consistency, it is like a butter. It's called a cleansing butter, and it is that consistency. So you can pick it up between your hands. It's not like a liquid formula. You can pick it up, touch it. I rub mine on the end of my fingers and then smear it on my face, then rinse my cloth and wash it off. And this too has become part of the pre-yoga bedtime routine, along with taking the collagen sachet and doing the flossing. I also do the not the body butter routine, the cleansing butter routine. So this was one of those habits where I was conscious that I needed to do a little bit of tweaking, a little bit of replacing. It wasn't a new habit I was adding in. It was one that I was doing every day, but I knew that I could do better. And I found a great product, which has enabled me to do better. As far as I'm aware, until someone tells me otherwise, I think I'm doing better on that one. So that was my 4th habit. And then coming on to my 5th habit. Okay, this is a hardcore one. You know how at the start of the episode, I talked about replacing habits or adding in new habits and not beating yourself up about needing to give things up. Well, this is just one of those where I had to go hardcore. There's always going to be an exception to the rule, isn't it? And this is what I did. After probably almost 40 years, I can't believe it's that long. Do you know what I gave up after 40 years? I gave up Diet Coke. And this for me was pretty hardcore. I'm going to rewind a little bit and tell you about my relationship with Diet Coke. So I was 13 when I bought my first can of Diet Coke. I remember it so clearly. I got on my Rally Nova 20. Anyone else have one of those? And cycled to my local shop. And I bought it. And I remember having the can, drinking the can outside of the local shop. And it was white or grey. It was white and it had grey diagonal stripes on it. And it had got Diet Coke written on it in red writing. And I drank that can of Coke and I took it home and I put it on a shelf. I had a shrine to Diet Coke, even at the age of 13, which on reflection is slightly worrying. Anyway, Diet Coke for me was revolutionary. I loved Coke. As kids, I liked Coke. We didn't have fizzy drinks very often. And I think this is where partly my love of a fizzy drink stemmed from. We didn't have fizzy drinks very often. We didn't have lots of money when we were growing up as kids. And we would occasionally have it at Christmas. And also probably then fizzy drinks weren't available as much. But I still love fizzy water. I do like a fizzy drink. So I think that's why I loved Coke. The time we would have it occasionally is if we went to stay with my grandma, and my sister and I would put sugar in Coke and watch it fizz and then drink it. And I'm sure we were known to put at least 2 or 3 teaspoons of sugar in a glass of Coke so we could watch this amazing chemical reaction. I think that's as far as my chemistry knowledge went. But anyway, so we would have Coke with grandma with sugar in it. Oh, sugar in Coke, can you imagine? And so when Diet Coke came out, it was revelatory, and I think I stopped putting sugar in it at that stage. It probably defeated the object. Anyway, then I headed off to university, and my best friend at university, Jo, she loved Diet Coke, and we would work in the library together in the evening in our big old halls of residence, this big old library we'd work in. It was in our halls, so we were allowed to drink in there, and we would have our can of Diet Coke. And then more recently, or over the years, I suppose, I just got into a habit of having an 11 a.m. can of Coke or a 500ml bottle. And sometimes I would have another can in the afternoon, maybe. I don't drink tea or coffee. So I think there was just something a little bit joyous each day in a way, because I really enjoyed it. It was so deeply ingrained that my body would almost start looking for it at 11 a.m. I think that's true with any habit. But it got to the stage that I didn't like that. I wasn't controlled by it. I wasn't dependent on it, but I didn't like the way that it made me feel in terms of my body starting to think, oh, it's Diet Coke time now. Have you got any in the fridge? Or we're getting low, you need to buy some more so that you don't run out. I didn't really like that. I also didn't like the idea of fake sweeteners. I was obviously having a lot of fake sweeteners. or what it might do to my teeth or bones long term in terms of the chemicals that was in it. And then I think I'm right in saying this, I could be wrong, phosphorus, which is in fizzy drinks, is not great for your teeth or your bones. And I thought, well, if on the one hand I'm doing all these other things, I'm going to take the collagen, I'm doing the flossing, I'm doing the yoga to help with flexibility and strength, and I do my running, and I don't drink tea or coffee, and I don't have much alcohol, and I try and get my 5-day, all of those things that on the one hand I'm doing. I was thinking, but you've actually got this quite weighty thing on the other hand that you're still doing that is probably counterproductive for you. So that needs to go. And so this is one of those hardcore. I gave it up. I just gave it up. I just woke up one morning and said, I'm not going to have it anymore. But actually what I did, and this may seem a little bit counterintuitive, but I gave it up the first day of my holiday. I was on holiday in Guernsey and I just thought, I'm going to have a great week. The forecast is good. I'm here with my family. My sister was there with her family. My friend was there with her family. My dad's down there. We'd got day trips planned. And I just thought, I'm going to be busy. It's not as if I'm sitting at home working on my own. I get to 11 o'clock and there's no one around me. And I'm like, oh, do you know what? I fancy a Diet Coke. I thought, no, I'm going to be busy. I'm going to be so distracted. I'm not really going to be thinking about it. And that's what I did. And then by the time I came back a week later, it really didn't bother me. And occasionally I'll think about it. And I have had the odd Diet Coke since then, but it's the very occasional one. So on a Thursday morning, 2 friends and I do a long run and we'll stop at Costa halfway round, as you do. And sometimes then I'll have a Diet Coke. And I do like the fact that on the second half of the run, at the point in time, I'm starting to think, oh, this is a long way, because it's normally about 10 miles. I do get a little spring in my step. And I think, oh, that's probably from the Coke. But last week I didn't finish it all. And there'll probably come a point when I won't have it. And then I think I've had one other, but I try not to. And it's not even that I try not to, I don't really want it. So it's a good habit for me to have given up. It's better for the whole plastic situation. That single-use plastic wasn't good. That was another thing that I was thinking about if I was having one of the 500ml bottles. So overall, plus it saves money. That can go towards the collagen when there comes a time, if and when there comes a time that I need to start paying for that, that's fine. I can just redirect those funds elsewhere. But what I figured about these things that we do have to give up, or we don't have to, but that we decide to give up hardcore, is that you have to be ready to give it up yourself. It doesn't matter what other people say. When it's that much of an ingrained habit, you have to be the one who decides to quit. And if you're not there yet, or if you're not ready yet, don't force it, because chances are you probably won't succeed, and then all you'll do is feel bad about it. Not only are you still doing the habit, but you gave up, or you didn't succeed in kicking the habit. So the best thing I think in that situation is to find other habits that you can adopt, which mean that over time there may no longer be room for that other less constructive habit in your life. Now that might be habit stacking, doing things either side. It might be looking to external things like, this isn't great for the environment, so I'm going to stop for those reasons. This isn't great for my health, I'm going to stop for those reasons. Financially, this isn't great. Or just make substitutions. I suppose that what I could have done is in the morning drank half a bottle of Coke and then had some fizzy water instead if I still wanted the fizz. There's always ways of diluting, in inverted commas, your habit so that you gradually start cutting it down, as opposed to going hardcore, I'm stopping, I'm not doing this anymore. So they are my 5 habits, 4 of which include working something else into my life: yoga, collagen, flossing, and the face batter. And 1 is definitely hardcore exclusion from my life. And I have to say, I feel so much better for it. I feel like I've taken control of various situations. I feel that I used to hear people talk about a morning routine and a bedtime routine and think, what on earth are you talking about? But I sort of get it now. It's just a number of things that I do in the evening to set myself up for a good night's sleep, to invest in my health, and that make me feel better overall and are a good use of my time. So that's where they have all come from. Okay, as with every episode, or every episode where I remember, I'm going to include an affirmation for the day. And today's affirmation is, good flows to me, good flows from me. I like this affirmation as I see us like a vessel where good flows to us and through us, and we in turn pass good on to others. So it's just something to think about as you're going about your day. If you've got the time and you're inclined to do so, good flows to me, good flows from me. I hope that you've enjoyed this episode and that hearing me talk about my habits has actually been a positive thing for you as well in some way, shape or form, whether that's because you like the approach of looking at life in a positive way as opposed to a negative, let's beat ourselves up way, which we're all very good at, or whether there's something you think, maybe I could add that in. I've got things of my own I want to add in. Maybe it may start as a little kickstart, again in a positive way, to adopt some new habits or to think how you might decrease a habit that you perhaps think is no longer serving you. So like I say, I hope you've enjoyed this episode. For resources and links for where to find me, if you'd like to come and chat, just take a look at the show notes underneath where you're listening to this. I also have a blog, a weekly newsletter, an online style membership and discount codes for brands, and you can find details of those below too. Okay, you have a super week. Take lots of care and bye for now.